Researchers and PhD students, would you like to be able to write 3 or more research papers every single year and publish them in high-impact Scopus-indexed journals in your field? And do this without feeling stressed or overwhelmed. Instead, feeling calm, relaxed and satisfied. And do this without working 50, 70 hours a week, long into the evening, at the weekend. Instead, having a really good work-life balance. Well, you're probably thinking right now, wow, this is just too good to be true. How do I know that this is just not another marketing scam? Well, my name is Marek Kiczkowiak, and the strategies that I'm going to teach you in this video are the same strategies that allowed me to do my PhD at the University of York in the UK in just 3 years. And this is me looking very pleased with my PhD diploma. And I also finished that PhD with 3 published papers and an academic book, while working for 2 of those years as a full-time lecturer at the Catholic University of Leuven in Belgium. And these strategies are also based on 7 years of working at universities in the UK, such as Sheffield Hallam University, Brunel University, in Belgium, such as KU Leuven, Université Libre de Bruxelles, where I designed and implemented academic writing courses helping PhD students and researchers write research papers. And these are also the exact same strategies that I teach to my clients at Academic English Now. Clients like Ashoka Ranjiwa, a PhD graduate in environmental protection, who wrote 3 papers in just 10 weeks of working with me, even though he hadn't written a single paper in 3 years of his PhD. Or Prateek Wahi, who after 3 months of working with me successfully finished his systematic review and submitted it to a journal, even though he had been stuck with it for over a year. Think about it. How awesome would it be if you had a pipeline with 5 or more research topics every year that could get you to top journals? If you had a repeatable and proven plan that allowed you to focus and write more papers while actually working less. You know, if you knew exactly how to structure your research papers and tell a coherent story so you're never staring at a blank screen ever again. You know, if you could express your research ideas with confidence so that you can highlight the novelty of your research. Or if you were always able to pick the right journal to really maximize the chances of you being published. Think about that. How would this change things for you? For some of my clients, like for example Ibifuro Jami, it allowed her to finish her PhD with no corrections. And it also allowed her to publish 2 papers in just 1 year of working with me. Or take Ashoka, the same person who wrote 3 papers in 10 weeks. It allowed Ashoka to go back home to Sri Lanka on holidays for 4 weeks. And for me, having this system in place allows me to write approximately 3 papers a year, but only to work 1 day on writing research papers, because for the other 4 days I run my business, Academic English Now, where I help PhD students and researchers write research papers for top journals regularly. It has also allowed me to become an authority in my field and give plenary or keynote talks at the most important conferences in my field. It has allowed me to advance my career, get better job opportunities and command higher salaries. So think about it. What would publishing 3 or more papers every single year allow you to do? Would it help you, for example, to get recognition in your field? Would it help you to land tenure track positions? Would it increase your salary? Would it help you to get grants? Or, would it just allow you maybe to spend more time with friends, family, or your kids? Or would it make you feel more confident, happier, more relaxed, and more satisfied? Well, if you're like, this is exactly what I need, I want to learn how to regularly publish 3 or more papers every year in my field, well then stick around for the rest of this video, because I'm going to walk you step by step through the entire system and show you exactly what you need in order to achieve this. So the first crucial thing is having what I call a high impact research topic pipeline. Because if you want to publish 3 or more papers every single year, you need to have, I'd say, at least 5 topics. However, most researchers and PhD students suffer from all or some of these problems. So for example, most PhD students and researchers lack enough high impact research ideas. And you are also unsure about the novelty of your topic and whether your topic is good enough for high impact journals. And what ends up happening is that you follow the crowd. In other words, you look at what other researchers are doing. Sometimes there is a groundbreaking paper, and then you see this crowd effect where all of a sudden everybody in that field starts doing exactly the same thing. And then you also choose topics that aren't feasible or that are really, really difficult and require, additional lab setup, really additional skills that you need to learn, a lot of additional knowledge. And, you end up learning all of those things for like months and months before you're ever able to do anything. And then you also end up, looking for a brand new topic for each new paper, which of course slows you down because you finish one paper and then you're stuck again with the idea for the next paper. So what is the solution? What should you do instead? Well, first of all, you need to get creative insights from other fields. If you really want high impact topics and you want to be creative, then you need to be able to connect the dots. And the best way to do it is to also be interested in other fields and what's happening there. And you also need to find a solid research gap, because if you have a solid research gap, then you'll be super confident that your research paper is publishable in top journals. And you also want to be different and innovative. You don't want to follow the crowd. You want to do stuff that is different from what everybody else is doing, because this is what's really going to make your papers stand out. And you also want to choose topics that you can work on swiftly. Topics that, are simply feasible. Perhaps topics where you already have the required skills, the required knowledge. Maybe you have the required lab setup, so it doesn't take months and months to simply even get started with the experiments, but you can just get started immediately with everything, and the whole process is fairly swift. And you also want to find just one massive research gap and fill it with 3+ papers. That's what I've done recently, and I found 2 really massive research gaps like that. And, for each of them, I've already written 2 papers, and the 3rd paper is in the pipeline. So, I don't have to come up with a brand new topic. I don't have to come up with a brand new methodology, lab setup, or anything like it, because it's one and the same gap, but I'm addressing it from different angles. So the whole process is much more swift. And when you apply this in practice, truly awesome things happen. This is Francisco, one of my clients on the program Research Paper Mastery. And Francisco is a researcher. And when we started working together, Francisco didn't really have enough research topics that would get him into top journals. After the first week of the program, he told me on one of our collaboration calls that he actually has too many topics. And now his problem is, where do I start and what should be my first topic? Now, the second issue that you need to get right if you want to publish 3 or more papers every year is to have a proven plan and laser-like focus. So the problem that a lot of researchers and PhD students suffer from is that, you lack a proven plan to regularly publish papers. You're kind of told, well, be independent, develop your own plan, go and do it. I mean, you're a researcher right now. You should know how to do this. I'm not going to tell you how you should be doing stuff, right? But this is really silly because, surely there is a proven plan, because there are lots of researchers who publish, 5 papers every year, and clearly they're doing something right. And, also what happens is that, you lack the time to write papers despite working a lot. So, research clearly shows that most researchers don't have the time to write papers. And a lot of PhD students also complain that they don't have the time, even though research again shows that most early career researchers work like 50 or 60 hours a week, evenings, weekends, and stuff like this. Right? So what happens is that papers don't get written, the deadlines start looming large, and you feel stressed. So what is the solution to that? Well, first of all, you need to clarify your one priority. So just by definition, there can only be one priority, and you need to get it straight. What is it that you really want to do? And I imagine it is writing research papers for top journals regularly. So that's your one priority. And you need to eliminate and minimize distractions so you will focus naturally. So the mistake that a lot of people do is that they try to focus, but they are surrounded by distractions such as emails, colleagues and students vying for their attention, Netflix and things like that. Well, what you want to do is just to get rid of all those distractions or minimize them as much as possible. And then the natural state of affairs will be to focus. And then you want to do more of what moves the boat towards your goal. And what I mean by that is that you want to identify the things, the actions that are moving you forward towards your priority, i.e. writing more research papers. And then you want to do less of what doesn't move you forward and just kind of helps you to stay afloat. So stuff like email, you want to do less of it or almost none of it. And what you want to do more of is focused writing time. And you want to block focused writing time in your calendar, and you want to guard it like a lion. Right? So the mistake that, a lot of researchers and PhD students make is that there is no fixed blocked time for writing. There's blocked time for everything else, there's blocked time for meetings, for supervision, for classes, for lab work and stuff like this. But people seem to forget that their priority is to write papers. But how can you write papers if you don't block time for writing papers, right? So you must block it in your calendar and just guard it like a lion. If somebody wants to book a meeting at that time, you're not available because you're working, you're writing papers, you're focused, right? That's the solution. And when you really plan and focus, amazing things happen. Take a look at Ibifuro Jami, for example. Her thesis needed major corrections when she started with me. She had really no plan and she was not sure what to do, and she was feeling truly desperate. And I don't blame her at all. I mean, anyone would if your thesis needed major corrections and you had a very limited time to do this. We started working together, and after 1 year, Ibifuro successfully defended her PhD and passed it with no corrections. And meanwhile, during that time that we worked together, she also published 2 papers in top journals in her field. Now, the next really important thing that you need to get right if you regularly want to publish high-impact papers is to be able to tell a coherent story. Now, some of the problems that, researchers and PhD students suffer from is struggling to tell a story in your papers. And you probably have heard that from your supervisor or from journal reviewers, like, sorry, but this paper really lacks a story, right? And also, you probably lack a repeatable structure for your papers. And as a result, you get stuck. You keep on rewriting, and then you just get stuck and you can't move forward with the paper. And the arguments just aren't developed logically, right? There is no coherence to the argument. And as a result as well, the key contribution or novelty of your paper is not highlighted appropriately, which ultimately just results in your paper getting rejected, right? So what is the solution? What should you do instead? Well, first of all, you should follow the inverted pyramid principle. So just imagine a pyramid placed, on its head, and everything goes from general to specific. So each paragraph goes from general to specific. Each section of your paper goes from general to specific. That's the inverted pyramid principle. And this principle helps you to tell a coherent story. And you also want to be going to the pyramid apex. So the apex is, the top of the pyramid, right? It's the most important point. It's the key point of each paragraph, of each section, right, of your whole paper. And you want to be taking your reader to that main point, to the pyramid apex. And you want to keep it in mind at all times. And you really want to start all paragraphs, with a clear topic sentence, so that clarifies the main idea of that paragraph for the reader. And then you want to develop the rest of the paragraph following the inverted pyramid principle and going towards the pyramid apex. And then you also want to link your ideas within paragraphs and between paragraphs in order to tell a coherent story. When you're writing the paragraphs, you need to ask yourself, what is the purpose of this next section? And I'm adding more information. Is it contrast? Is it a reason? Is it a consequence of the previous sentence? And then indicate that to the reader. And, you also want to stop waffling, right? You get to the point and build a coherent argument, right? So stop waffling and just get to the point and tell us what you mean and build a coherent argument. That's the solution. What happens when you apply this structure to your academic writing? Well, take a look at Mercedes Cornelius. When we started working together, she really struggled with maintaining a coherent story and a logical flow in her writing. And after applying these strategies, she wrote her first year PhD report that was so good that her supervisors at the University of Cambridge in the UK, they told her that they enjoyed reading that report. Just think about it. How nice would it be if your supervisors or the reviewers of the journals told you that they enjoyed reading your research paper? Now, the fourth thing that you need to get right is to be able to express your research ideas appropriately in appropriate scientific language. Now, the problems that most researchers and students and PhD students have is that they struggle to write concisely and scientifically. So what happens is that you stare at a blank screen looking for the right word, right? You in your head what do you want to say, but you don't know how to say it. So you're staring at that blank screen, right? Wasting a lot of time. And as a result, you just lose confidence and maybe even start to dread writing. And you just, as a result, put off writing. You postpone it. Oh, I'll do it tomorrow. I don't want to do it today. I'll go to the lab today. And then you put it off continuously. And what might happen is that you will need to pay thousands of dollars for proofreading. Yeah, proofreading is really, really expensive if you want to get it right. So to proofread one scientific paper, just to proofread it, can cost, easily $800, $900. And if you want some proper scientific editing of that paper, well, that can be several thousands of dollars. And then your papers get rejected because the ideas in the papers are great, but they just aren't expressed appropriately, so nobody notices the greatness of your ideas, right? So what is the solution to all of this? Well, first of all, you want to avoid 99% of phrasal verbs. Phrasal verbs are those things like come up with, go down, and so on, right? There are, probably like 3 or 4 phrasal verbs that you can use in academic writing, like carry out or point out, but as a rule of thumb, you want to avoid most of them. You also want to use words that have a specific meaning. So a word like good doesn't really mean anything. But like the word like appropriate or positive or adequate or effective, they have a very specific meaning. And that's the words that you want to use. You also want to, as a result of this, you're expressing your research ideas, with greater confidence, obviously. And as a result, you're writing daily and you're making consistent progress, right? And you want to learn how to proofread yourself. And this is totally possible. I've never paid a single penny for proofreading, and I'm not planning to. And you shouldn't either. You should learn how to do this yourself, how to revise your text, so that you can save those thousands of dollars every year in proofreading fees. And, as a result of all of this, if you do this, then you publish your papers in top journals. And once you learn this, great things can happen. For example, Lilian Ehidiamhen, when we started working together, her ideas were somewhat repetitive, unclear, not precise. There was a lot of wordiness as well in her papers, and she really wanted to publish. And she knew that she had great ideas. The problem was how to express them appropriately. And after just 3 weeks of working together, she finished her first research paper. Now, the last really important element is what I call the feedback bottleneck. So the problem that most researchers and PhD students have is a time bottleneck. So basically, you get infrequent guidance and feedback. Maybe you're able, if you're a PhD student, maybe you're able to get some feedback once a month if you're lucky, once every 3 months. And if you're a researcher, you almost never get any feedback unless you're working with another researcher on the same paper, right? And then the feedback that you get very often is just unclear. So, I help researchers and PhD students write papers, and I see the feedback that they get from the supervisors, the bosses, the colleagues, and usually the feedback, it's sad, but usually the feedback is something like, it's illogical, fix it. This is not the right word to use here. It's informal. Find a better word. But how are you supposed to do this? I mean, this is not feedback. It's just venting your frustration at somebody else's writing, right? And the problem as well is that, then you make a lot of mistakes and you waste a lot of time, because if you get infrequent feedback and you get unclear feedback, then you will be wasting a lot of time trying to fix stuff and you don't know how to do this, right? And as a result, your papers are delayed and you feel increasingly frustrated with your work. So what is the solution to that? Well, first of all, you want to get weekly guidance and feedback so that all the mistakes are nipped in the bud and they don't spread, throughout the whole paper. Now, you also want to get clear feedback on how to improve the flow and the language, right? And by that, I mean just clear instructions of exactly how a paragraph should be rewritten so that there is a coherent story. And if you do that, then you will get consistent and fast progress with your paper, because the feedback is regular, it is clear, so you know exactly how to improve your paper, and then you're moving forward really fast. And then your paper is basically ready in weeks, and you feel satisfied, relaxed, happy, and motivated, and you want to continue writing. What happens when you get regular personalized guidance and feedback? Well, take a look at Rami Abdullah. We started working together and Rami got regular weekly feedback from me. In fact, I think if I remember correctly, he was sending me, paragraphs of his research paper every 2 days, right? And, we worked together. I gave him specific guidance, feedback, and corrections. And in just 5 weeks, he not only wrote the paper, but he also submitted it to one of the top journals in his field, geosciences. So at this stage, you basically have 2 options. Option 1, you can try it on your own. Or option 2, we can go at it together. If you decide to go at it on your own, you might eventually, after a couple of years, figure it out on your own. But before that actually happens, this is what is likely to happen. First of all, you'll spend much more time, effort, and you'll have to work harder. So you'll likely feel frustrated and stressed throughout the whole process. You will also make a lot of mistakes, so some of your papers might get rejected, and you might end up paying thousands of dollars for proofreading. Yeah, proofreading is really expensive if you want to get it right. And you might also need to get an extension on your PhD, or you might miss out on tenure or better job opportunities if you're a researcher, which would be really, really costly as well. Now, the second option is to do it together while working with me and my team. If you decide to go at it together, here's what's very likely to happen. First of all, you will start working smarter, not harder. So you will feel more relaxed, fulfilled, and accomplished. And you will avoid mistakes because you will have regular feedback from us. So basically, you can save thousands of dollars on proofreading. So in the end, you can publish 3 papers in the next 12 months, so you can get a promotion or become an authority in your field or get tenure. But ultimately, I'll tell you what, doing it together will be just so much more fun as well. So, if you're a PhD student or a researcher who would regularly like to write research papers for top journals in the field, then let's definitely talk. Because me and my team have set aside some time over the next 5 days to talk to you one-to-one to see if and how we might be able to help you. So this is a completely free one-to-one consultation, either with myself or with a member of my team, where we're going to, first of all, dive deeper and identify the exact challenges that are stopping you and the root causes of those challenges. We're going to specify your goals and then outline a personalized strategy that will help you to achieve those goals as fast as possible. Right now, the link is right below this video. I also put it here on the screen. Very simple, academicenglishnow.com/schedule. And once you click on that link, you will land on a page like this, where you can select the time and date. First, please make sure that the time zone that is selected is your time zone. This should be done automatically, but do check it so we don't have any mix-ups in your schedule. Now, the second thing is to select the time and date that you want to have your one-to-one strategy session with us. Just please make sure that when you do that, you pay attention to AM versus PM, right? So you might think, well, this is silly. Well, but we get so many people who book at, 12:30 AM thinking that this is midday, but 12:30 AM is midnight. Or people book at 3 AM thinking that they're booking for 3 PM for the afternoon, but they're booking for the night, right? So please do pay attention to AM versus PM. And then fill out this short form, and then either myself or a member of my team will get back to you, and then we'll talk further, and we'll meet you one-to-one on the strategy session. Now, just to be very clear, we value your time a lot, so it's important to clarify who these one-to-one consultations are for. So these one-to-one sessions are definitely for you if you're a researcher or a PhD student and you're looking to double or triple your scientific output. You're also looking to publish papers in top journals in your field, not just in any journal, but you really want to go for, the best journals in your field. And maybe you've had your papers rejected before and you want a proven system to avoid endless resubmissions. You also want to climb the academic career ladder and become an authority in your field. And you're committed and ready to invest right now in achieving your academic goals. If this sounds like you, then this one-to-one session is definitely for you and you should book it right now. So if any of these sound like you, then I'm really looking forward to speaking with you one-to-one. And honestly speaking, people tell us after these one-to-one consultations that it's one of the best 45 minutes that they invested in their research paper writing goals this year. Now, it's also important to clarify who these sessions are not for, because, we receive a lot of applications for people who want to work with us, and we can't help everybody, and we don't in fact work with everybody. So who are these one-to-one sessions not for? Well, now this free one-to-one consultation is definitely not for you if you're a bachelor's student. We don't work with bachelor's students. We primarily work with PhD students and researchers. And this session is also not for you if you want someone to write the thesis or paper for you. We're not going to do that because it's unethical. I know that there are a lot of services offering this, but we don't do this. So if you want someone to write things for you, then don't book the session. It's also not for you if you're looking for advice on the content or the methodology of your project. We don't provide any advice on the methodology or the content. We provide advice on how to write your papers and how to publish them in top journals and how to become more productive and how to manage your time well so you can focus on your writing and you can write 3 or more papers every single year while feeling happy, satisfied and motivated. And it's also not for you if you're looking for a free lesson. Now, you can think of this one-to-one consultation call with me or a member of my team as, a first visit to a specialist, to a doctor. So you've got a problem, you've got an ailment, maybe your back hurts, and you've looked up, a specialist in the field who can help you. So you go to that specialist for a first initial session so that they can better understand what exactly the problem is, what the causes of that problem is, and then prescribe a treatment for you. So that's how you can view these one-to-one consultations with us. Now, these sessions fill up really fast and we only have availability over the next 5 days. So if you do want to start regularly writing research papers and speak to us one-to-one, then you should definitely act right now and book the call immediately. And now, if you're still not convinced, then I want to leave you with this. Your life can basically go in these 3 main ways, in terms of research papers, but also in other areas of your life. Number 1, you can decide to do nothing, stay stuck where you are, and watch others regularly publish research papers. And this is clearly the worst option. Now, option 2 is you can go at it on your own. I've given you the whole system that you should follow, but guaranteed you're going to make a ton of errors, you're going to struggle for years, waste a lot of time and feel frustrated before maybe eventually you figure it out. So it's not really a great option either. And then the third thing that can happen is that you can start to regularly write papers for high impact journals following a proven process and regular expert guidance and mentorship. So which option do you prefer? What are you still doing here? Go and book that one-to-one call with us and let's get started writing your research papers.